There are people who smile in front of others, but cry silently when they see a child holding someone else's hand. There are couples who love each other deeply, yet feel an emptiness in their home that no one else can see. You make dua again and again. You raise your hands at night. You whisper your pain to Allah, but nothing changes. And, slowly, a question begins to grow inside your heart. Why me? Why is Allah making me wait this long? Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear might change how you see your pain forever. And before we begin, from where are you watching this video? And what time is it in your city right now? This delay is not rejection, it is divine preparation. There is a kind of pain that people don't talk about openly, a quiet ache that sits in the heart, especially when you see others living the life you once imagined for yourself. You attend gatherings, you smile, you congratulate others, you hold their children in your arms. But deep inside, something feels heavy, something feels incomplete, something feels unanswered. And then, when you return home, when the noise fades and the silence takes over, the question begins to whisper again. Why is Allah making me wait? Understand this clearly, because this is where many hearts begin to break in the wrong direction. Delay does not mean rejection. Just because something has not arrived yet does not mean it has been denied forever. Allah does not reject sincere hearts that turn to Him again and again. There is a difference between being ignored and being prepared. And what you are experiencing right now is not neglect. It is preparation on a level you cannot yet see. Allah says in the Quran, perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. Allah knows, while you do not know. This one truth alone can change how you see everything, because what you are asking for is not something small or temporary. You are asking for a life, a soul, a responsibility that will reshape your entire world. A child is not just a source of happiness, it is a trust that requires emotional strength, patience, wisdom, and stability. And sometimes, without realizing it, we ask for things while we are still not fully ready to carry them. Not because we are weak, but because we are still growing. So Allah, in His mercy, does not rush the process. He does not give based on pressure, comparison, or desperation. He gives based on perfect timing and complete wisdom. While you are waiting, something powerful is happening within you. Your heart is being softened in ways you never noticed before. Your connection with Allah is becoming deeper, more sincere, more real. Your patience is being stretched. Your faith is being tested. Your trust is being refined. You are becoming someone who will not just receive a blessing, but someone who will value it, protect it, and raise it in the best way possible. Because sometimes, if blessings come too early, they are taken for granted. And sometimes, if they come before we are ready, they turn into burdens instead of gifts. So Allah delays, not to hurt you, but to align everything perfectly. He aligns your heart, your mindset, your relationship, your environment, and even the unseen aspects of your future that you have no knowledge of. You may feel like nothing is changing on the outside, but on the inside, everything is being prepared. Every tear you have shed has meaning. Every moment you felt empty has purpose. Every night you raised your hands and made dua is being recorded, valued, and answered in ways you cannot yet understand. And when the moment finally comes, when Allah decides that the time is right, when everything has been perfectly aligned, you will realize something that will completely change your perspective. You will realize that if it had come earlier, it would not have been as beautiful. If it had come sooner, it would not have been as meaningful. If it had come before this exact moment, it would not have carried the same depth of blessing. So this delay is not rejection. It is not a sign that you are forgotten. It is not a punishment for something you did. It is a sign that Allah is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see, preparing something that is not just good, but perfectly timed for your life. And the hardest part of this journey is not the waiting itself. It is trusting that the one who made you wait will never let that wait go to waste. So hold on, even when it feels heavy. Keep making dua, even when your voice feels tired. Keep believing, even when nothing around you is changing, because the story is not over yet. And what Allah is preparing for you is worth every moment of patience. Your patience is not passive. It is transforming you into someone greater. There is a misunderstanding that many people carry about patience. They think patience is simply waiting quietly, doing nothing, just enduring the passing of time until something changes. But in reality, patience is one of the most active, most powerful states a believer can be in. Because real patience is not silence without meaning, it is strength without recognition. It is the ability to continue believing when your situation gives you no visible reason to believe. It is waking up every day with the same unanswered prayer in your heart and still choosing to turn to Allah instead of turning away. It is feeling the weight of delay, the pressure of questions, the comparisons with others, and yet refusing to let your faith collapse under that weight. And that is not weakness. That is a level of strength that most people never reach. Allah says in the Quran, "Indeed, Allah is with those who are patient." Think about that deeply. Not after patience. Not once the struggle is over. Not once the dua is answered. Allah says, He is with you during the patience itself. In the exact moment you feel tested, in the exact moment your heart feels stretched, in the exact moment you are fighting your own thoughts and emotions, Allah is closer to you than you realize. So this waiting is not empty. It is filled with divine closeness. Every second of patience you show is building something inside you that cannot be seen from the outside. It is building emotional resilience. It is building spiritual depth. It is building a connection with Allah that is no longer based on convenience, but based on trust. Because anyone can believe when life is easy. Anyone can feel close to Allah when everything is going their way. But the one who continues to trust, continues to pray, continues to hope, even when their heart feels tired, that is the one who reaches a completely different level. And that level cannot be achieved through comfort. It can only be achieved through waiting. Sometimes Allah delays something not because the blessing is not ready, but because you are being elevated to a place where you can carry that blessing with wisdom and gratitude. Because without this process, you might receive what you asked for, but you would not have the same appreciation for it. You would not have the same depth in your heart. You would not have the same understanding of what it truly means to rely on Allah. And that is why this period of waiting is not wasted time. It is transformation. It is shaping your character in ways that will stay with you for the rest of your life. It is teaching you how to be strong without becoming hard, how to be patient without losing hope, how to trust without needing constant reassurance. And one of the most powerful realities about patience is this: you are not only being rewarded for the outcome, you are being rewarded for every moment of the journey. Every time you control your emotions instead of letting frustration take over. Every time you choose to make dua instead of complaining. Every time you hold your heart together when it feels like breaking. Every one of those moments is being recorded. Nothing is being ignored. Nothing is being forgotten. And one day, when you see the full reward of your patience, when you see how Allah responded to every silent struggle, you will realize something that most people never understand in this life. You will realize that the waiting itself was part of the blessing, that the delay was not separate from the reward. It was the process that made the reward meaningful. Because if everything came easily, it would not carry the same value. If everything happened instantly, it would not build the same depth inside you. So Allah chooses a path for you that may feel heavy, that may feel long, that may feel uncertain, but it is a path that leads to something far greater than what you initially imagined. And here is the reality that changes everything. You may be waiting for a child, but during this waiting, Allah is creating a version of you that is stronger, wiser, more patient, and more connected to Him than ever before. And that version of you is the real gift, because whatever Allah gives you after that will not just be received. It will be honored, it will be valued, it will be protected with a heart that understands the journey it took to get there. So do not see your patience as something passive. See it as a powerful transformation that is happening within you, because the person you are becoming during this wait is not ordinary. It is someone who has been shaped by faith, refined by struggle, and elevated by trust in Allah. And that is a level that cannot be bought, rushed, or imitated. It can only be earned through patience. Allah's timing is perfect, even when it breaks your heart to wait. There is a pain that comes not from loss, but from delay. A pain that grows slowly, quietly, over time. Not because you don't believe in Allah, but because you don't understand why things are happening the way they are. You pray, you hope, you wait, and then you look around. You see people who started after you, yet they receive before you. You see families growing, homes filling with laughter, lives moving forward, and you are still standing in the same place, holding the same unanswered dua. And this is where the test becomes deeper, because now it is no longer just about patience. Now it becomes about trust. Trusting Allah when His plan does not match your expectations. Trusting Allah when His timing feels confusing. Trusting Allah when your heart whispers questions that you are afraid to even say out loud. Allah says in the Quran, "And your Lord creates what He wills and chooses. Not for them was the choice." This verse carries a reality that is not easy to accept, but once you understand it, it changes everything. You were never meant to control the timing of your life. You were never meant to decide when things should happen, because your vision is limited to what you can see in this moment. But Allah's knowledge surrounds your past, your present, and your future all at once. He sees outcomes you cannot imagine. He knows consequences you cannot predict. He understands connections between events that your mind will never be able to fully grasp. So when something is delayed, it is not random. It is not meaningless. It is not a mistake. It is a decision made with complete and perfect knowledge. But here is where the struggle becomes real. Because your heart does not operate on logic alone. Your heart feels the emptiness. Your heart feels the silence. Your heart feels the distance between what you hoped for and what you are living. And sometimes that feeling becomes so heavy that you begin to question everything. Not because your faith is gone, but because your pain is real. And Allah knows that. Allah knows that you are trying. He knows that you are holding on even when it feels like your grip is weakening. He knows that you are still making dua even when your voice feels tired. And that is why He reminds you that His timing is not just different from yours. It is better than yours. Because if everything happened according to your timing, you would only choose based on what feels right in the moment. You would not see the long-term impact. You would not see the hidden consequences. You would not see the unseen realities that are shaping your future. But Allah does. And sometimes what you want right now is being delayed because something greater is being arranged for you. Something more stable, something more meaningful, something that will not just make you happy for a moment, but bring long-term peace into your life. Think about how many times in your life something did not happen the way you wanted, and later you realized it was actually for the best. Think about the doors that closed, the opportunities that disappeared, the moments that felt like loss. And then, later, you saw a better path open that you could not have imagined before. That same reality is happening now, but because you are still inside the moment, you cannot see the full picture yet. And that is why trusting Allah's timing requires something deeper than understanding. It requires surrender. It requires accepting that you do not need to know everything to trust the one who knows everything. It requires letting go of the need to control every outcome and instead believing that the outcome chosen by Allah is already the best one for you. This does not mean the waiting will suddenly become easy. It does not mean the pain will disappear overnight. But it changes how you carry that pain. It changes the weight of it. Because instead of feeling like you are stuck without purpose, you begin to realize that you are exactly where you are meant to be in this moment. That even this delay is part of a plan that is unfolding with precision. And one day, when the timing finally makes sense, when the answer finally arrives, when the blessing finally enters your life in the way Allah has written for you, you will look back at this period and see it differently. You will not just see it as a time of pain. You will see it as a time where everything was being aligned behind the scenes. You will see how every delay had a reason, how every unanswered moment had wisdom, how every tear had a purpose. And in that moment, something powerful will happen inside you. You will not just feel relief. You will feel certainty. Certainty that Allah's timing was never late. Certainty that nothing was missing. Certainty that everything happened exactly the way it needed to happen. And that certainty will stay with you for the rest of your life. So right now, even if your heart feels heavy, even if your questions feel unanswered, even if the waiting feels longer than you expected, remind yourself of this one truth. You are not being delayed randomly. You are being guided precisely. And the one who is guiding your life does not make mistakes. So trust him, even when it is difficult, because his timing is not just good, it is perfect. This test is not just about a child. It is about who you become before the blessing arrives. There is something many people do not realize when they are going through a delay like this. They think the test is only about what they are waiting for. They believe the entire struggle is about the child, about the outcome, about the moment when their dua will finally be answered. But the reality is much deeper than that. This test is not only about what you are asking for. It is about what you are becoming while you are asking for it. Because Allah does not only care about the result, He cares about the person you are turning into along the way. And sometimes, the transformation is more important than the outcome itself. Allah says in the Quran, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. This verse is not just a comfort, it is a powerful truth that changes how you see your struggle. Because if you are going through this, it means you have been chosen for something that you are capable of handling, even if it does not feel like it right now. It means there is strength inside you that you have not fully discovered yet. It means there is a level within you that Allah is bringing out through this process. And that process is not easy, because becoming stronger often requires facing what feels unbearable. Becoming patient often requires going through long periods of waiting. Becoming deeply connected to Allah often requires moments where you feel like nothing else can help you except Him. And this is where the real transformation begins. Because when everything else feels uncertain, your relationship with Allah becomes your only stability. You begin to turn to Him not just in moments of need, but in moments of emptiness. Not just when you want something, but when you feel like you have nothing else to hold on to. And that kind of connection cannot be built through ease. It is built through moments where your heart is searching for something deeper. This test is teaching you how to rely on Allah in a way you never have before. It is teaching you how to find peace, even when your situation has not changed. It is teaching you how to hold on to hope without needing immediate results. And most importantly, it is teaching you how to grow without even realizing it. Because look at yourself carefully. You are not the same person you were before this test began. Your heart feels things differently now. Your perspective on life has changed. Your understanding of patience has deepened. Your connection with Allah has become more personal, more real, more sincere. And even though the pain is still there, even though the waiting has not ended, there is a quiet strength inside you that was not there before. That strength did not come from comfort. It came from this test. And this is something you will carry for the rest of your life. Because the person you are becoming now will not disappear once the blessing arrives. That patience, that resilience, that deep connection with Allah will stay with you and shape how you live, how you love, how you raise your future child if Allah grants you one. So this delay is not empty. It is full of meaning. It is full of growth. It is full of unseen changes that are preparing you for something greater than what you originally imagined. And here is something even deeper to reflect on. Sometimes people receive blessings without going through a process like this. And because of that, they may not fully appreciate what they have. They may not understand the value of patience. They may not have the same depth in their relationship with Allah. But you are being given something different. You are being given a journey that is shaping you in a way that will make every future blessing feel more meaningful, more valuable, more deeply appreciated. Because you will know what it means to wait. You will know what it means to struggle. You will know what it means to rely on Allah when nothing else seemed to change. And that knowledge is priceless. It cannot be taught. It can only be experienced. So do not see this test as something that is only taking from you. See it as something that is building you, something that is refining you, something that is elevating you step by step, even if you cannot see the full picture yet. Because one day, when you look back at this period of your life, you will not just remember the pain, you will remember how it changed you, how it strengthened you, how it brought you closer to Allah in a way nothing else could. And in that moment, you will realize something that will stay with you forever. This was not just a test about waiting for a child. This was a journey that turned you into someone stronger, deeper, and closer to Allah than you ever thought possible. And that transformation is a blessing in itself. What you think is delay might actually be protection from a future you cannot see. There is a reality about life that most people only understand after many years, sometimes after many mistakes, sometimes after experiencing pain they never expected, and sometimes after losing something they once thought they desperately needed. That reality is this: not everything that you want is actually good for you at the time you want it, and not everything that is delayed is being taken away from you. Sometimes, what feels like delay is actually protection working silently in your life. Protection that you cannot see, cannot measure, cannot fully understand while you are inside the moment. Because your perspective is limited to what you feel right now. You feel the emptiness, you feel the longing, you feel the unanswered prayers. But Allah sees the full picture. He sees what would happen if your dua was answered immediately. He sees how your life would unfold if things came earlier than they were meant to. He sees outcomes that your mind cannot even imagine. Allah says in the Quran, "It may be that you love a thing and it is bad for you, and it may be that you dislike a thing and it is good for you. Allah knows, while you do not know." This is not just a verse to comfort you. It is a complete shift in how you should understand your situation. Because what you are asking for is not something small. You are asking for a child, a life, a responsibility that will change every part of your daily existence. Your sleep will change. Your priorities will change. Your emotional energy will change. Your relationship dynamics will change. And while you are focused on the joy of that blessing, Allah is looking at everything that surrounds it. He is looking at your readiness. He is looking at your environment. He is looking at your emotional capacity. He is looking at your future circumstances. And sometimes the answer is not no. The answer is not yet, because something needs to be protected. Maybe there is something in your life right now that would make this blessing heavier than it should be. Maybe there are challenges ahead that you are not aware of. And if everything came together at this moment, it would create a burden instead of peace. Maybe there are unseen harms that Allah is quietly keeping away from you by delaying what you are asking for. And this is the part that requires the deepest level of trust, because you are being asked to believe in something you cannot see, to trust a wisdom you do not fully understand, to accept that the one who created you knows your life better than you know your own desires. This is not easy, because when your heart wants something deeply, it becomes difficult to accept anything other than immediate fulfillment. You begin to measure your life based on what is missing instead of what is present. You begin to focus on the delay instead of the protection within that delay. And slowly, without realizing it, your perspective becomes clouded by pain. But if you step back for a moment and reflect deeply, you will start to see a different reality. Think about the times in your life when something did not happen the way you wanted. Think about the doors that closed, the opportunities that disappeared, the moments that felt like loss. And then think about what happened later. How many times did you realize that what you thought was a loss was actually saving you from something worse? How many times did you see a better path open only after something else was taken away? How many times did you understand, much later, that Allah was protecting you in ways you could not see at the time? That same principle is happening right now in your life. But because you are still inside the test, you cannot see the full outcome yet. And that is why this moment requires patience, not just in waiting, but in understanding. Understanding that Allah does not take away without replacing. Understanding that Allah does not delay without purpose. Understanding that Allah does not test without wisdom. Every delay in your life is carrying something behind it. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is elevation. Sometimes it is protection. And sometimes it is all three at the same time. So when you feel like your dua is not being answered, remind yourself of this truth. It is not that nothing is happening. It is that something is happening in a way you cannot yet see. Because if Allah gave you everything exactly when you asked for it, without considering the unseen factors of your life, it would not be mercy. It would be risk. And Allah is not only the one who gives, He is also the one who protects. And sometimes His protection looks like delay. Sometimes His mercy looks like waiting. Sometimes His care looks like silence. And this is where your faith is being refined at its deepest level. Because real faith is not only believing when things go your way. Real faith is trusting when things do not make sense. It is holding on to the belief that Allah is doing what is best for you, even when your heart is struggling to understand it. And one day, the moment will come when everything becomes clear. You will look back at this period of your life and see it from a completely different perspective. You will see how certain things were kept away from you, how certain timings were delayed, how certain outcomes were rearranged. And you will realize that if things had happened the way you originally wanted, your life would not have been as peaceful, as stable, or as complete as it eventually became. And in that moment, something inside you will change forever. You will no longer see delay as something negative. You will no longer measure your life based on how quickly things happen. You will understand that Allah's timing is not only about giving, it is about protecting, shaping, and guiding you toward the best possible outcome. So do not rush what Allah has slowed down. Do not question what Allah is carefully arranging. Do not lose hope in the middle of a process that is not finished yet. Because what you are experiencing right now is not abandonment. It is not neglect. It is not a sign that your du'as are being ignored. It is a sign that Allah is actively involved in your life, working behind the scenes, protecting you from things you cannot see, and preparing something that will come to you at the exact moment it is meant to. And when that moment arrives, when everything finally comes together in the way Allah has written for you, you will understand something that words cannot fully describe. You will understand that every delay had a reason, every unanswered moment had wisdom, every tear had value, and every second of waiting was part of a protection that you could not see, but that was always there. So trust Him, even when it is difficult, because the one who is making you wait is the same one who is protecting you from what you do not yet understand. And that protection is a mercy greater than anything you could have asked for. When Allah delays something you love, He is not just testing you. He is rewriting your entire story in a way you could never imagine. There are moments in life when the pain you feel is not loud, it is not visible, it is not something people around you can easily understand. It is a quiet kind of pain that sits deep inside your heart, growing slowly over time, becoming heavier with every passing day, not because something terrible has happened, but because something you long for has not happened yet. And when that longing continues for a long time, it begins to shape your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, and even your understanding of yourself. You begin to question your worth without realizing it. You begin to compare your life with others, even when you know it is not healthy. You begin to replay the same dua again and again, hoping that this time it will be answered differently. And slowly, the delay itself becomes a part of your identity. But what if this entire situation is not just about what you are waiting for? What if it is about something much bigger that is unfolding behind the scenes? What if Allah is not simply delaying one part of your life, but He is rewriting your entire story in a way that you cannot yet understand? Allah says in the Quran, Allah is gentle with His servants. He provides for whom He wills, and He is the strong, the mighty. This verse carries a meaning that is often overlooked. Allah's actions in your life are not random, and they are not harsh. Even when they feel difficult, they are gentle, precise, and deeply connected to what is best for you, even when your emotions cannot fully accept it. Because gentleness from Allah does not always feel like ease. Sometimes it feels like delay. Sometimes it feels like waiting. Sometimes it feels like a silence that you cannot interpret. But that silence is not empty. It is full of decisions that are being made with complete wisdom. Think about your life as a story that is still being written. You are currently inside a chapter that feels slow, uncertain, and emotionally heavy. And because you are inside it, you cannot see how it connects to the chapters that will come next. You cannot see how this delay will shape your future reactions. You cannot see how this waiting will influence the way you raise your child, if Allah grants you one. You cannot see how this patience will affect your relationship with your spouse, your family, your faith, and your understanding of life. But Allah sees all of it at once. He sees how this moment connects to moments that have not even happened yet. He sees how your current struggle is preparing you for future responsibilities. He sees how your current emotions are being shaped into strength that you will need later. And because He sees the full story, He writes it differently than you would. If you were in control, you would choose comfort over growth. You would choose immediate happiness over long-term strength. You would choose quick answers over meaningful transformation. But Allah chooses what will elevate you, not just what will please you in the moment. And that is why this delay is not a pause in your life. It is a crucial part of your story. It is a chapter that is shaping everything that comes after it. It is teaching you lessons that cannot be learned in any other way. Lessons about patience, about trust, about reliance, about emotional strength, about understanding that your life is not defined by what you have, but by how you respond to what you do not yet have. And one of the most powerful changes that happens during this process is this. You begin to realize that your connection with Allah is not dependent on outcomes. It is not dependent on whether your dua is answered immediately. It is not dependent on whether your situation changes quickly. It becomes something deeper, something more stable, something that exists even in the middle of uncertainty. Because when you continue to turn to Allah while you are waiting, your relationship with Him becomes real in a way that cannot be explained to someone who has never experienced it. It becomes a source of strength that does not rely on external circumstances. It becomes a place where you can return, no matter how heavy your heart feels. And this is something that will stay with you for the rest of your life. Long after this delay is over, long after your situation changes, long after your dua is answered in the way Allah has written for you, this connection will remain. And that connection is more valuable than anything else, because it will guide you through every future challenge, every future test, every future moment of uncertainty. Now think about this carefully. What if Allah gave you what you wanted immediately, without this process, without this waiting, without this transformation? Would your connection with Him be the same? Would your understanding of patience be the same? Would your ability to handle future challenges be the same? The answer is no, because growth requires time, strength requires experience, and depth requires struggle. And Allah is giving you all of that right now, not in a way that feels easy, but in a way that is building something inside you that cannot be taken away. And here is something even deeper to reflect on. This delay is not only shaping you, it is also shaping how you will receive your future blessing. Because when something comes after a long period of waiting, it is not taken for granted. It is not seen as something ordinary. It is valued in a way that only someone who has waited can understand. It is protected with a level of care that comes from knowing what it took to reach that moment. And that changes everything, because the blessing is not just in the child itself. It is in the journey that led to that moment. It is in the patience that built your character. It is in the trust that strengthened your faith. It is in the connection with Allah that deepened through every unanswered dua. So this chapter of your life is not empty. It is full of meaning, even if you cannot see it clearly right now. It is full of changes that are happening within you, shaping your future in ways that will only become visible later. And one day, when you reach that moment, when your story unfolds in the way Allah has written it, you will look back at this period with a completely different understanding. You will see how every delay had a purpose, how every moment of waiting had a role in preparing you, how every tear had value in shaping your heart. And you will realize something that will stay with you forever. You were never stuck. You were never forgotten. You were never being denied. You were being guided, step by step, through a process that was designed specifically for you. A process that was not meant to break you, but to build you. A process that was not meant to harm you, but to elevate you. A process that was not meant to leave you empty, but to prepare you for something that would fill your life in the most meaningful way. So do not see this delay as the end of your story. See it as a chapter that is still being written with precision, care, and wisdom. Because the one who is writing your story does not make mistakes. And when he completes what he has started, it will be in a way that is more beautiful, more meaningful, and more perfectly timed than anything you could have written for yourself. So trust him, even when your heart feels heavy, because this is not just a delay. This is the rewriting of your story into something far greater than what you can see right now. The moment Allah answers you will make you forget the pain of waiting, but the journey will stay with you forever. There is something about human nature that we rarely admit to ourselves. We believe that once we get what we have been asking for, everything will finally make sense. Everything will finally feel complete, and all the pain we carried will simply disappear. And in many ways, that is true, because when Allah finally gives, He gives in a way that fills the emptiness you once felt. But there is something even deeper that happens in that moment, something that goes beyond just receiving the blessing itself. You do not just receive what you asked for, you receive a completely new understanding of your entire journey. Because when the answer finally comes, when the waiting ends, when the silence is replaced with a reality you once dreamed of, your perspective changes in a way that is impossible to explain to someone who is still waiting. You begin to look back. You begin to revisit every moment that once felt painful, every night that once felt heavy, every dua that once felt unanswered. And slowly, something shifts inside you. The same moments that once made you question everything begin to make sense in a way that leaves you in silence. Not the silence of confusion, but the silence of realization. The realization that nothing was random, nothing was delayed without reason, nothing was taken away without wisdom. Allah says in the Quran, "And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out and will provide for him from where he does not expect." This promise is not limited to one type of situation. It is a universal reality, because when Allah decides to open a door, He does not open it in a predictable way. He does not follow the expectations you created in your mind. He opens it in a way that surprises you, in a way that humbles you, in a way that makes you realize how limited your own understanding was. And when that door opens, something remarkable happens. You do not just feel happiness, you feel gratitude on a level you have never experienced before, because you know what it took to get there. You know the nights you cried. You know the moments you almost lost hope. You know the struggle of holding on to faith when everything around you felt uncertain. And that knowledge transforms the way you experience the blessing, because it is no longer something ordinary. It is something sacred, something that carries the weight of your entire journey. And that is why the blessing feels deeper than anything you imagined, because it is not just the result that matters. It is the path that led you to it. It is the patience that shaped you. It is the trust that strengthened you. It is the connection with Allah that grew stronger with every unanswered moment. And here is where the most powerful realization happens. You begin to understand that if Allah had given you what you wanted earlier, you would not have been the same person receiving it. You would not have had the same depth. You would not have had the same appreciation. You would not have had the same connection with Him. And suddenly, the delay that once felt painful begins to feel necessary, not just acceptable, necessary, because without it, you would have missed something far greater than the blessing itself. You would have missed the transformation. You would have missed the growth. You would have missed the version of yourself that was created through patience and trust. And that version of you is something that stays long after the moment of receiving has passed. Because life does not stop after one blessing. There will be more challenges, more tests, more moments where you will need strength again. And the strength you built during this waiting will carry you through all of it. This is why Allah does not simply give and move on. He prepares you, shapes you, strengthens you, and then gives in a way that ensures the blessing becomes a source of long-term peace, not temporary happiness. And even if, for some people, the exact thing they are asking for does not come in the way they expected, Allah replaces it with something that fits their life in a way they could never have planned themselves. Because Allah does not leave sincere hearts empty. He fills them in ways that match what is best for them, even if it is different from what they initially imagined. And when that realization settles in your heart, something changes forever. You stop measuring your life based on how quickly things happen. You stop comparing your timeline with others. You stop questioning every delay as if it is a problem. Instead, you begin to see your life as a carefully written story where every chapter has a purpose, every delay has a role, and every outcome is connected to something greater. And this understanding brings a kind of peace that is not dependent on circumstances. It is not dependent on whether everything is perfect. It is a peace that comes from knowing that the one in control of your life is not careless, not distant, not unaware. He is present. He is aware. He is guiding every detail with precision. So right now, if you are still waiting, if your heart still feels heavy, if your dua still feels unanswered, hold on to this truth with everything you have. This is not the end of your story. This is not a sign that you have been forgotten. This is not a punishment. This is a chapter that is leading you towards something you cannot yet fully understand. And one day, when that moment arrives, when everything comes together in the way Allah has written for you, you will not just feel relief, you will feel certainty. Certainty that every second of waiting had value. Certainty that every tear had meaning. Certainty that Allah's plan was always better than your own. And in that moment, you will realize something that will stay with you forever. You were never waiting for the blessing alone. You were being prepared for a life that is built on faith, patience, and trust. And that life is far more beautiful than anything you could have imagined at the beginning of this journey. So keep going, keep trusting, keep making dua, because the one who made you wait this long is the same one who will give in a way that makes you understand why it had to take this long. So, if your home feels quiet, if your heart feels heavy, if your arms feel empty while your prayers remain full, do not let your pain convince you that Allah has forgotten you, because the truth is, Allah remembers you in ways you cannot even imagine. Every tear you hid from people, every silent moment of breaking, every night you whispered your dua when no one else was listening, Allah saw all of it. Not one moment was ignored, not one feeling was wasted. And the delay you are living through right now is not a sign of rejection. It is a sign that something is being written for you, with care, with precision, with a wisdom that your heart cannot fully see yet. You may feel like time is passing, like life is moving forward for everyone else, like you are standing still while others receive what you have been praying for. But you are not behind. You are exactly where Allah wants you to be in this moment, because your story is not late. It is being written differently. And when Allah writes something, He does not rush it. He perfects it. So, do not lose hope now. Do not let your heart grow tired of asking. Do not let your faith weaken because the answer has not come yet. Because the one you are asking is the most merciful, the most wise, the one who gives at the right time, not just any time. And when that moment comes, when your dua is answered in the way Allah has chosen for you, when your home fills with the blessing you once cried for, when your heart finally experiences what it has been waiting for, you will not remember the delay with pain. You will remember it with understanding. You will see how every moment of waiting had a purpose, how every tear had meaning, how every second of patience was shaping something far greater than what you imagined. And in that moment, you will say, from the deepest part of your heart, this was worth the wait. So, hold on, trust Him, and never forget, the one who made you wait is the same one who will give you in a way that makes you fall in love with His plan.